Hey guys, how's it going? It's your friendly neighborhood tech fanatic again, and say hello to my beta king here. He's a pretty little guy, but that's not why I'm here today. I have the unique opportunity, thanks to Motorola, to do a review on one of their new phones, and I wanted to bring it live to you guys. So today, I'm going to be doing a unboxing and review of this guy right here. The new Moto G5 Plus by Motorola. This phone just came out on the US market, and I think the world market as well. It's a new kind of mid-range budget phone by a company that really optimizes their hardware and their software, really does their best to put a vanilla version of Android on all of their phones, and that's one thing that I always give kudos to as far as Motorola's phones go. So let's take a look at the specs real quick here on the back of the phone. So we've got ourselves a 5.2-inch full HD display. It's actually down in size a little bit in comparison to like the Moto G 4th generation. I think it went up to like 5.5 inches, but we still have a nice resolution on there. We have a 2 gigahertz octa-core processor. I'm pretty sure this is the Snapdragon 625 in here. We have a 12 megapixel rapid focus camera on the back. From what I've heard, this camera is very similar to the one that was on the Galaxy S7 in that it has a technology similar to the dual pixels. And then we have a 3,000 milliamp hour battery that Motorola claims will last all day. As well, you have fast charging on here, which is pretty nice. So let's go ahead and open up the box and we'll get into this here. Here's the phone itself. So there's a few more specs on here. So you have the turbo power charging like I was talking about. You also have the fingerprint reader on here, and this phone does have expandable memory, so big thumbs up to you, Motorola, for keeping the headphone jack and for keeping the micro SD card reader. So let's go ahead and pull the phone out of here real quick, and then we can take a look inside of the box itself. Very minimalistic box. I kind of like how Motorola does this. They don't really do much with their boxes, whereas Samsung likes to get really fancy schmancy with the design of their phone boxes. So, as per usual, on here we have in here we have the charging cable, we have the charging block, which if I take a look, see here, it is a 12 volt 1.6 amp constant current charger. So strangely enough, it's rapid charging, but it's not a 2 amp block, which is interesting. Next we have our SIM tool, and then the usual startup papers, so not really much going on there. So let me put all this stuff back, and we can take a look at the phone itself. So let's power this bad boy on real quick. And let me take that off. So there's the boot screen. While this is loading, I am going to go over some of my first impressions, because this isn't my first time using the phone. I've actually had the phone for approximately today's the 4th day that I've owned this phone, and you know, it's been enough days to where I've gotten pretty much a decent feel for how this phone performs and kind of what it's all about. So the first thing I'm gonna talk about here, and let me put my PIN code in here real quick so I can get into the phone. There we go. So it's going to go ahead and start up Android. So the first couple things that I want to go over is, one, the design of this phone is absolutely gorgeous. You've got the metal back on this thing, so it definitely feels premium. You also, as you can see flashing on here, you have a really cool camera setup. So you have kind of the dual laser focus on the back of the camera, which is really cool. You have the dual tone flash, and then you have your 12 megapixel camera right there. If we move to the front, we have ourselves the kind of signature Moto microphone grill. We have the 5 megapixel front-facing camera, which I have to say is actually a really nice front-facing camera. And then we have the fingerprint sensor on that side. No buttons on the left side of the phone. We have the lock button and the volume rocker on the right side. So fairly bare bones phone. Otherwise, you just have the 3.5 millimeter headphone jack, which thank goodness they kept that. And then they have a micro USB charging port, which is, it's a little bit behind. I honestly think it wouldn't have cost Motorola any kind of extra money to put a USB Type-C port on this phone. But, what'll you do? Everything is based on cost here. So let me turn down the brightness real quick on here so you guys can see the display on the phone. There we go, it should be good. So, 1080p resolution on this display. Some of you may be upset, some of you are spec Mongols and connoisseurs of cell phones and you like having the greatest specs, but for what it's worth, the display on this phone is quite good. For the YouTube videos that I've watched, the articles that I've read and whatnot on this display, everything looks good. Text is crisp, video looks awesome, good contrast between colors. It's just nice, and even in direct sunlight this display looked really, really good. Real quick on software version, just so you guys can see here, because that'll probably be quite important to you guys. So we are on Android version 7.0 on this phone, and a little bit behind on the security patch, but because this is such a new phone, I'm sure we will have an update out soon to kind of get everything updated. Otherwise, this phone for the most part has the kind of Google Pixel Launcher style app drawer, so you pull up like this and that gives you the app drawer kind of down from the bottom. I actually really like this design. I think it's a waste of space putting the app drawer button there, so kudos to Motorola for keeping with the times. Otherwise, you also have your Google Assistant baked in here, so that's really cool. That's right out of the box, so there's no extra downloads or anything like that, so really nice. Otherwise, this thing just feels extremely snappy. I've noticed that it performs very, very well just in day-to-day usage, pulling up websites, pulling up games. Everything is just very, very snappy. And when I can't do it right now because I don't have the phone with me, but my coworker has a Galaxy S7 Edge that she actually just got. It was basically a brand new out-of-the-box Galaxy S7 Edge, and we ran some side-by-side speed tests, and what we found was that the Moto actually beat the S7 Edge in a lot of speed testing. We noticed that apps pulled up faster on here. We noticed that videos played faster. We noticed that pulling up apps from way back in the recent app menu, they would still open up just fine. So it's really nice. And I didn't mention this at the beginning of the video, but this is the 4GB RAM, 64GB storage model. So I do have kind of the higher up model, at least as far as RAM goes. And, I can't complain so far. Even though it's kind of a mid-range processor in here and everything, this phone is a trooper. It does its job. And I would put it right there next to the Moto Z Play, which was a very solid performer. I would put this thing, as far as performance goes, right up next to the likes of the ZTE Axon, and a lot of other phones that kind of fit into the price range of this phone. For $299, this specific model, in my opinion, is a steal. You're getting top-notch performance. You're getting a vanilla version of Android. You are getting marvelous cameras, which, you can't really see it because I'm filming a screen, but the clarity is quite amazing on this camera. Same thing for the front-facing camera; it's really quite good. The rear camera, as far as nighttime photography goes, is actually also quite good. I found that it takes nighttime photos just as well as a Galaxy S7 camera does. The front-facing camera, again, just fares very, very well against the competition. The last two things I should say I want to cover. One is the fingerprint reader. So this thing is extremely fast. You tap your finger on it and it unlocks. You can tap your finger on it again to lock the phone, and so it's just extraordinarily fast. Look at that. As soon as I tap my finger down, the display unlocks. And I showed this to my coworkers, and they were like, there is no way you have a fingerprint on your phone, you don't have a lock screen, blah, blah, blah. And I showed them in the settings, and, you know, this thing really is fast. I would say that they are faster even than the Moto Z fingerprint readers because there's actually more surface area for your finger to land on. The last thing I want to cover here is battery life. The battery life on this phone has been, I keep using the word, but it's been pretty marvelous. The battery life, from what I've experienced, you know, I recently charged the phone, so it's kind of pointless to show you, but just the other day, I was at 5% battery life, having used this phone for almost a day and a half after I had gotten it. And what was amazing was the amount of screen on time that I got with this phone. I had 8 hours of screen on time. It was 7 hours and 56 minutes and some change. So really, really spectacular screen on time with this phone, and I think that's what really matters. It's how much activity you've experienced through the phone while the display has been on. It's very important for day-to-day use, and I can honestly say this thing will not disappoint. A day and a half of usage is better than some of the flagships are getting, and I can honestly say I used the LG G6 that just came out, and the battery life actually kind of left me wanting. So in comparison, this $300 cell phone exceeded my expectations, let's put it that way. So definitely get this phone if you are looking for a nice budget performer, if you are looking for a good phone, if you want something like the Pixel but you don't want to spend $600 or $700 or $800 on it. This is the way to go. You get 64 gigabytes of storage, 4 gigabytes of RAM, and it's expandable. You get an amazing display. You get a fast processor. This phone is incredible, and it's beautiful. It's just such a beautiful phone. And that's just what kills me is, you know, how does Motorola do it? How do they make phones that are this great and so cheap? And I honestly, I kind of hope they keep it coming because this is definitely going to rile up the market. Anyways, my final note to end with doesn't pertain to the phone. I know in my last video I said I was going to do a tour of kind of all of my tech that I have in my room and kind of all the tech that I own, period. And I'm still going to do that. I'm still working on that video. I'm just trying to wait on a few more things to come in that I plan on setting up before I do that video. But I am quite excited for it because I have a lot of stuff to show you guys. I also have a few other reviews coming up. I have some other products that I got in, and so I'm really excited to bring those to you guys. So please stay tuned. I will be bringing you more information. If you like this review, give me a thumbs up. If you have any questions about the phone, leave a comment. Otherwise, thank you again for watching. Subscribe if you aren't already. Thanks for being here, guys. Say goodbye to my beta. He's kind of showing his butt to you, but, you know, it's all love. Peace out, guys.